Hi, everybody. I'm Shelli Dry. I'm a doctor of pediatric occupational therapy, and I'm also the director of clinical operations at Enable My Child. So, at Enable My Child, one of the things we've really worked hard on this week is trying to get a platform ready um, for the therapists who need somewhere to go, somewhere to take their caseload. We have made our platform available to everybody in the schools, and now we are adding in the therapists because we want to make sure that people still continue to get therapy services that they need during this day and time. So I'm going to go over a little bit of a PowerPoint just to tell you some little um, techniques and things you want to consider when you're starting your teletherapy session. And then I'm going to show you also how you can move about and do things, use things within the family home. So let's start with the PowerPoint. And one of the things that you want to consider is the type of teletherapy that you're going to be providing. So at Enable My Child, we do a lot of school-based sessions, and we follow those IEP goals and recommendations for treatment time. We track that in everything that the student needs. So that may include group sessions, or it may include direct sessions, or just consultative sessions. We also provide services to early intervention, and I know there's a lot of early intervention providers out there who have never considered how they're going to do this via teletherapy. So I'm here to help you a little bit get started with that. A lot of the early intervention centers are using the coaching model, and so if that's the model they're using, then that's what you want to implement. The that includes, using a primary service provider model, using joint planning with the family or with the other team members. You can do all that through teletherapy, the same as you've been doing regularly. We also provide that independent outpatient therapy. We have a lot of consumers who come to us for services when they need either additional therapy or just therapy for any other reason. We can do mental health counseling, and we have a nice private and secure location for mental health counselors. And we can also do sports training and psychology and provide those services. This year, we've added teachers of visual impairment and orientation and mobility specialists, so we are also able to provide those types of services to individuals who need it. So as you can see, teletherapy is not a new concept. I think you all knew that. It's just a lot of therapists are out there and they just can't figure out how to get going. We're going to help you. We help by getting our platform ready. I'm going to also let you know some of the considerations for teletherapy would be, can the person follow simple directions? If they can't, that's okay. You want to make sure they have somebody there with them in the room who can help. So you just need an adult or a family member to assist them through it. It's really important that you make sure they know how to access their technology. So that includes, a video camera, audio, speaker, and being able to turn those things up and down so that they're comfortable with the session. Think about some of those individuals who have really hypersensitivity to noise. They might want to be able to turn down their microphone, or they may turn you off, and you don't want that to happen. So you make sure they know how to adjust their volume. And then, of course, consider the complexity of the child or student that you're working with and try to have things ready in advance to address some of those concerns. If the family is concerned about them being able to access the video, then you might want to help talk them through positioning and how you can make that easier. Remember that you have a lot of knowledge, a lot of skill, and you need to bring that confidence out when you're working with individuals. You are just doing things a little bit differently, but you're a therapist and you've done this. If you think about when you first came out of school, you might not have known on day one how to do therapy. You had a lot of clinical reasoning, you had a lot of things that you learned in school, but you had to implement it. So you're doing that now. You're just implementing things in a different way. But you've got the knowledge, you've got the skill, so be confident. And then make sure you're comfortable with technology yourself. So practice a few times if you need to. There's some specific things you want to consider to make your sessions more smoothly. Of course, you need to follow all those HIPAA laws. You have to keep things private. So a good idea is to make sure you're in a room where you can either shut the door or lock the door. I put a sign out that says I'm in session, I'm online, don't come in. And that has stopped a lot of people from knocking on the door and saying, hey, can you come see me? You know, it's really one of the things you need to consider, especially if you're working from your own home, because people are used to you being accessible. And everybody here now knows if the door is shut and my sign's out, they don't come back. You, of course, have to follow your own state guidelines. You have to follow your therapy principles. Make sure you're implementing things ethically. Every discipline out there has an ethical board, and so you want to make sure you're following those same things that you would follow in home. You're doing therapy. This is not anything different than the therapy you've been doing. It's just a different modality. So we already talked about testing your own equipment, making sure you're ready for the session. Start your session by developing rapport, just like you would in a face-to-face. Include coaching, consultation, or training. It's so important to make sure that families understand what you're trying to instruct them in, and make sure there's ways that they can do therapy all day, every day. So embed those things into your day, into your regular routine, and help families know how to do that when you're not sitting there on the computer with them. And then you want to make sure you have your documentation and keep that documentation private. Again, we have to follow those HIPAA laws. They're there for a reason, so we need to make sure things are protected. Don't leave documentation on a computer or laptop that everyone shares. Make sure it's behind some kind of locked system. So some ways to build rapport is to approach that session as a part of the team and let the family know you're there to help them come up with solutions. You are there to work with other providers. You have the ability to engage with other providers, to call them, to do co-treatments if needed. You're able to do whatever you can to be a part of the team. Use open communication. That's really important. You want the family to know, what you're doing and why you're doing it, and you want to know what they need. So make sure you're asking those open-ended questions and trying to find out what they need from you. Including the child's preferred activities. People forget you need to do that if you want them to buy into this new way of meeting you. You might have been treating them for a while, but now you're doing it online. So start your sessions with their preferred activities. It's really going to help. Give the parents those play tips, ways to do things throughout the week. So many parents right now, they've never done online school with their kids. They've never thought they would be a homeschool family, but they're there, so they need activities. But it can't all be about learning. You've got to have fun too. So give them some of those tips and help them address some of the challenges that they're facing. And then, of course, end your sessions positively and with a fun activity because you want them to come back the next week. So start your sessions with a greeting, just as you would. Introduce yourself. Review, if you saw them the week before, review some of the prior week activities that you gave them or strategies. Make sure you don't need to tweak anything. See if things are working well. And then assess their needs for the day. See where they are in that day and time. One of the things that I did not tell you all was, I don't know if you heard that, but make sure you turn your phone to silent because mine just bleeped. I hadn't turned that down. And then I always like to start sessions with preparatory activities and getting the child's mind and body ready for the session. So I don't just go directly into therapy. We might do something fun, and I'll show you that in a minute. it's a good idea for you all to send out a welcome package before that first session ever occurs. So you want to know their scheduling preferences. And if you send this through a packet, you're not on the phone all the time calling them up to try and rearrange schedule times. So you have them mark things down, what day they prefer, what time of the day works best for their family. And then you send them that intake form before the session ever happens. This will help you if you get all these documents in place before that first day. It's gonna help so that you're not just doing paperwork online. So send them these forms. They need to have them completed. And if you need an authorization or if you need a doctor's order, check your state laws and make sure you don't need that before you start your session. So get all this stuff together. If you use Google Forms, then that's a great way to develop these packet materials, keep them all together. You can email it to the family and they can email it back. Now, don't forget to tell them that you need that, at what time and day you need that, because you don't want to be getting this when you're supposed to be having the session. You got to make sure you've got all these things in place beforehand. And then don't forget to tell them how to log in. So you've got to be very explicit in your login instructions. Give them the page that they need to go to do the login, and tell them how to start a session. Remember, this is new to a lot of families also. So you want to make sure you make it as easy as possible. If they need to run a tech check, include that in your welcome packet, how they run a tech check, how they make sure things are working on their own camera. Now, we are a web-based program, so you don't have to download any software, and the families don't have to download any software. That really makes it a lot easier for families. And then that first session, I mean, you really just need to focus on building rapport, teaching them the routine of the session, how you want your sessions to work, and then engaging them in play, keeping them happy and letting them get more comfortable. A lot of times the families are just as nervous about starting this as they were the first day they came into therapy. And then focus on those family goals. Make sure you know what they are, because they might be changing right now. You know, a lot of families have a lot going on and they may have some additional goals to add. Don't forget at that first session to give them your contact information. Let them know the easiest way to contact you, and get the same thing from them, so that you know if their preference is email, text, phone call, you know, whatever they need, you want to have that information down. So this is an example of a Google form that I talked about, you know, finding scheduling preferences. So easy to create. Google Forms will walk you through the steps to create their form, and then you just keep it all together in a welcome packet so that you can send every form they need on that first day. So make yourself a file folder with all the welcome materials, and it really will simplify your life. This form just is for schedule preferences. So it's just an example, different times here of when they can check. It's a good idea. I choose all that apply, but it's a good idea to remind them, oh, I might need 2 or 3 choices on there because I might not be able to get you in on your first choice. So give me some backup. And then this is an example. I like to use visuals when I'm working with a family. So this is an example of different warm-up techniques or brain breaks that you might take mid session, and you can let the child make a choice. Now you can personalize this, do it to whatever works best for them. I like to use mindfulness. I like to incorporate that. So I also have this breathing area. I work a lot with self-regulation. So I might have a lot of the sensory things like stretching. You know, we're going to get up, we're going to stretch, we're going to do, I call it the super stretch. We're going to get our arms out, we're going to touch the floor, and then make sure you're standing up and doing things with them, because you want to demonstrate, but you want to be involved, right? You do it during your regular sessions. You get in there, you don't just sit to the side. So get up and move with them. And remember, they need to move. So you need to make a plan for that. Let them tell the family how to adjust the camera. I am going to get up in a few minutes and show you how to adjust to get down to the floor. Now, one of the things I like to do I'm sorry, we'll come back to this one. This is just different areas that, different places you can go to get different tech materials you might need online. I have this just up here, but it's just a few brief. There's so many out there, and if you look on some of the groups, they've got a lot more. These are just speech activities. There's some different zones of regulation, you know, that the OTs and the PTs might want to use. Boom cards, which a lot of speech therapists use. You can go on Teacher Pay Teacher. They have tons of things. Here's an OT that she has developed a ton of things. This one is a link to her handwriting tools, but if you look for Julia Taylor, she's got a nice page with a lot of materials that you can include into your sessions in different areas. Handwriting is just one of the examples. Of course, you can use Pinterest. I think everybody knows that. They have their own telehealth section, so look through there, browse through. This site, ESL Phonics, is word searches, and I like to do mazes and things like that with kids if their goal is more working on some of those following directions and fine motor and attention. And again, end your session on success. So these are some glitches you could run into. A lot of times, internet's, so make sure you don't have a lot of unnecessary things running in the background. There's things to remember. Skype uses your internet connection, whether you're on Skype or not. So you have to physically quit Skype and turn that off. Dropbox and Google Drive, things like that. File synchronization services, they run all the time in the background. So if you're having a problem with internet speed, you might want to turn those off. And then any cloud-based software usually won't bother things too much, but it could be something that you might want to turn down or turn off during your sessions. And then making sure you close any extra browser windows you may have open that might be taking up some of your bandwidth speed. If your Wi-Fi is glitchy, at least that's my term for it. If your Wi-Fi is having problems, then you could hardwire your computer. I mean, that's something that is easy to do, and it is a solution. Or you want to make sure that you have your router nearby, or you're setting up close to your router. The other thing you want to consider with your Wi-Fi, or one of the things that I've done is I've put those Google spots throughout the house because I have multiple levels, and so I want to make sure we have good access wherever we're doing therapy. I have a full therapy room set up in my basement, so if I'm trying to work with individuals on things they could do maybe at the playground or something like that, I've got swings, I've got all of that in the basement. So sometimes I might be doing a session down there. So I put those Google points throughout the house. And then your antivirus software will take over your computer if you allow it. So make sure it's not scheduled to do things during the day when you're online. Of course, you can't control the weather, but it doesn't always interfere, but sometimes there are weather-related problems. We see a lot of people on different islands, and they have things that just shut down their internet, and you just have to be understanding and be flexible. If you're on cable internet, then you have to know that the whole neighborhood's using it. So, and right now, everybody's working from home. So you might have a lot of slowdown if you're on the cable internet. When you're using a hotspot, that's a great backup. It also will slow you down a little bit. So, you know, keep it available in case you need it, but just be aware. And then there could be an audio problem where you can't connect through audio. So I think it's a good idea to know the family's phone number and make sure that you can call them up and connect through audio that way. You can continue. You just need to remember at that point to turn off your microphone so you're not getting a lot of background noise. You're talking to them through the phone, but you're demonstrating through the video. And then this link is ways to speed up your internet, just some tools and tips and tricks for you. So there's ways here to diminish no-shows, making sure you make plans with the family, making sure you send out reminders beforehand, telling the family why you're doing what you're doing, and making sure that they are getting their needs met, of course. Those are teletherapy examples. We have our Enable My Child YouTube page. You can go there. There'll be speech examples, OT, and PT examples. And there's just, one video of each, but it's a nice way for you if you're still feeling uncomfortable. Now, some things you want to remember. Let me stop this. There we go. So one of the things that I do is I have 2 cameras. Okay, I use that so that I can alternate between cameras. In a minute, I'm going to go down on the floor. I work with young children a lot of times, and so I want to be on the floor with them. That's where I would do treatment if I was in their home. So that's where I'm going to do treatment when I am demonstrating to families, and I want the families on the floor. And you're playing with babies and working with babies. You need to be able to get down there with them. A lot of people ask about what to wear. Well, I try to dress the way I would if I was going into someone's home. I know some people are comfortable wearing things that are not trying to do sessions just wearing pajama bottoms and stuff, but I'm going to get up and move. So if I'm going to get up and move, I want them to be able to, I don't want to be in my pajamas. And then another good thing for y'all to remember is to keep a few things around that you can use for demonstration. So let me switch cameras really quick. There we go. And then we are going to show you, come over here. And there we go, guys. So I keep like a table with things like a small ball, because I'm going to do a lot with that ball. And then, of course, a baby doll for demonstrations. You can do so much. You can put the baby on the ball, show them how to do some positioning, how to do some work movement on the ball. And then some of the other things that I like to keep handy. Of course, this is things that I want to have things available that they're going to have within their home. So throw that on the floor, the baby on the floor. You wouldn't regularly do that, but so this, of course, is a nosy cup. I also do a lot of feeding therapy. I want to show families they're not going to have a nosy cup in their home. That's a cutout cup in case people aren't familiar with it. But I'm going to show them how to cut it out of a regular cup. So if they have a plastic cup or something, they can cut it out and smooth those edges so that when the child can't tip their head back, they can still drink. I also, if I'm working on feeding, I want to show them how to make a squeeze bottle. So that's something important. A lot of times, if you're teaching straw drinking, you want to be able to teach them a squeeze bottle. This is just an icing bottle, so sometimes families have that if they decorate cakes a lot. Sometimes they don't. It's real easy to find at Michael's or somewhere, and then they can get a straw and put the straw in, and then you just squeeze to bring the fluid up. I also keep a variety of spoons because I don't think we need to get the fancy therapy spoons if we have things on the market that people can use. So this is just a first feeder spoon, and then there's the spoons with blue candles out there on the market. There's another first feeder spoon. This one's great because it is a flat bed. And then I have found some little other flatbed spoons. So that's that. I am going to actually bring my puppet and other things down here to the floor so I can show you how to do a session on one. And there's a different cup. So if you want to introduce drinking skills from a cup, and there's a bowl with suction. But these are just things, that you might use if you're doing feeding therapy. Okay, so I'm going to come down here, and I would always tell the family, okay, you might see me move the camera a little bit because I'm going to adjust the way I'm doing things for them. And my camera's on the tripod, so I can set it up and direct it towards the blanket. So having a blanket available, having pillows available, think about it. Your families are going to have all this stuff. And again, you don't have to sit down in therapy. You can move, and your kids don't need to sit down. They can move. So we already talked about helping them position their baby on a small ball. I think all families have a ball in their house. So that's one thing you can do, is work with the ball. You can use the ball to get the baby to do some propping. You have those babies now who don't like to be on their bellies a lot of times, so you can use a ball to help them do that, make it fun. I tell parents, if you have pillows, and this is for my little bit older kids, I'll have them pile up pillows. And okay, so now we got a little bit of a place that they can jump. So you can demonstrate. You want to try jumping. You want to make them into a row and jump from pillow to pillow. You want to walk. If you're working on balance, you might need to have them out there walking. You can also throw different size pillows, pile them up. And again, you're just using things in the home that the families can have. Everybody's going to have a blanket, so you can put the blanket up over the pillows and kind of make a mountain and have the child work on that strengthening, climbing the mountain and having fun that way. Again, find out what your family needs and then use the things they have at home. Let's see. Okay, so another thing that I get a lot of questions on, but let me show you how to set up a simple obstacle course with these materials that we have. So if I'm a PT and I'm working on stepping, I might have some little step stools. And if I'm working on balance, I'm going to include that. So I can also put things like a pull noodle that the baby has to walk over. And again, I'm demonstrating to the parents, and then we're going to step up, and then we're going to step down. Oh, be careful, that's a little shaky. And then you're going to continue on your obstacle course. Obstacle courses are a lot of fun, and you can do a lot of different things in the house with things they already have to make that obstacle course. Let's see. There's other things that you usually, if you're working on sensory movement, you might want to have a little bouncy toy. Now, it may not be rock and rolly, but it would work, for bouncing and playing. Just be playful and teach them how to use things to get those needs met. Oh, I think that's good with different things you can do. One of the great things, if you're having trouble getting engagement, just take your blanket and do a little peekaboo. Kids love it when they're little, and so that's a good thing. I like to also tell families they can put the baby on a blanket, and my baby won't sit up, but I would ask the parents to have the baby sitting on the blanket, and then you're going to play games. You want to, make sure they're holding on, and play games where you're pulling. You can get movement. You can get core work through that just by pulling the blanket. Have the families pull it. The kids love it. You can go fast through the house. You can go slow. You can do different speeds, different directions, and work on all of those things. You can also show families how to work on rolling, right? And show them where to do hand placement. And so that's really important. You want to work on head positioning. You don't want families pulling the head back, right? And you wouldn't have that happen in your home. You would teach them how to put their hands on the chest and on the lower back and bring that baby upright. So do it with demonstration, but then make sure at the same time you're having them do it with their child. So you're showing them how, and you're watching them as they do it, and then you can make changes when needed. Now, I have these large therapy balls. I keep them in my house. They're a regular thing because that's what I sit on. And then I find that in a lot of family homes, they have it also. So I might show them. I'm going to have to change camera angles again. Just give me a minute. Again, I would tell the families that I'm going to change cameras. So give me a minute to change. And let me get back here where the family would be able to see me sitting on the ball. And I'll show them how to put their baby on their lap and how to hold them securely. So think about some of those babies who don't have good head control, or you're trying to work on midline or even crossing midline. You might show them how to do gentle balancing and demonstrate it, but also tell them, make sure you're not going too fast, do it very gently. You're just trying to kick it. And then you can show them how to straddle your leg if you're working on that to get more upright positioning. So you can do so much through teletherapy, just like you do in the home. It's just going to take you guys thinking a little bit about the sessions. You might have to do a little bit more planning in advance, but it shouldn't be so difficult to where you can't get your session. You can't have a good effective session and you shouldn't be spending all your time planning is what I meant to say. So, just think about it. It's really not as hard as people think it is. It's just implementing your same therapy techniques and teaching and educating and getting up and moving and getting the kids up and moving, having them get up and have fun. So let me show you how I would do the pictures, right? If I was doing a picture schedule or just picture choices, I would have that ready, have it open on my computer so that I can share it when it's time. And then these have the things. So if I'm working cross crawl, of course, that's one good that you can do sitting or standing, working on those cross crawl movements. Great midline activity, and it also gets kids, up and moving. You can do marching. You can do that super stretch. Playing Simon Says. That's a lot of fun for kids, and you're working on. Just think of all the things you're working on with Simon Says. But you can get them following directions, processing, listening, all of those great skills, and then also get them up moving and doing the things you need. The last thing I want to, and then yoga is one of my favorite things to implement, along with mindful awareness and breathing, teaching kids how to breathe and calm themselves down. But getting that mindfulness is so important for getting them focused before the session and making sure they're in tune with what they need to do. The last thing I'm going to talk to y'all about is assessments, because I get a lot of questions about assessments. They can happen. You don't have to just do checklists. People are concerned that you can only do checklists. You can get up and do your observations. If you're doing a handwriting assessment, you just need to, you're going to have to get your family to work on adjusting their camera to different angles so you can see what you need to see. So if you're trying to see their hands, you might have to get a book and have them put put their work up there so that you can see what exactly they're doing with their hands. But it's just, you know, work with your families. They'll position differently. You also can just back, like I did a little while ago, have that child back up and have a table, you know, have the families put a table here so you can see them doing their work. Just ask them, tell them what you need to be able to see. If I'm looking at handwriting, I'm going to also want to be able to see what the vision's doing. So I would ask them to back up, put a table there, either a table or a platform of some sort of binder, a large book, things they would have in their home, and then be able to see a little bit more of what's going on. You can also have them send you those documents after they're done with them. So if you're doing the VMI, we mail those forms out to the family beforehand. The therapist implements the VMI during the assessment, and then she has them scan the sheets and send it on to her. And that way she has that in front of her for scoring. Or if you're doing, say you're doing the Baileys, that's available through Q Global. So that's one of the things that you can do through Q Global. And you can send manipulatives to families if you need that available for them. Or you can ask them to gather things that they have in their house to work on that. When you write the report, you need to say that you gave it through teletherapy and make sure that you have that down. But we've seen many, many, many different articles that say given an assessment through teletherapy comes up with the same results as given an assessment face-to-face. So we've got the evidence out there, it's working. We do need to identify in our report that it was given with a different modality than what was written in the book when they started getting these assessments ready. Now the Baileys was just completed, the Baileys 4. It has just been, I think it was in 2019 when they were able to finalize it, but they were able to use different strategies. So they've got that one ready for teletherapy. And then there's all kinds of speech things on Q Global. So if you think about the self, if you think about your picture, your PPVT, your EFT, these are all available. There's a lot of psychology testing available for scoring on Q Global. And some of the forms are available, like, if you want to send the Vineland, you can send that directly to the family through remote administration, or the BASC-3, you can send that. You can do VEX depression scale online. There's so many assessments out there, and even the ones that are not just checklists or forms that they fill out, you can implement. You're doing the assessment, you're doing your observations, and just have the families work with you on positioning things correctly. I think that's all I have to share with you guys today. It's been great, and I hope this helps you get started. Again, you don't need to be worried about it. You'll be able to figure it out. All right. Bye, y'all.